a great big circle around our base. Starting off nice and slow, just working on the coordination of that shape. And make it as even of a circle as you can. The head and torso act as a counterbalance as we roll. And change directions. Again, first few circles, just trying to play with that shape, making sure weight distribution is even around the hips and the feet. Once that feels good, I can start grabbing very lightly with the toes, give more stability to my base. All right, from here, the stance widens a bit, and I want to roll my pelvis back as my torso sinks. So again, I'm not leaning forward, I'm rolling the hips back, okay? Forward and back, hips moving away. If I want more of a challenge, I can bring the hands to the center of my chest. If that compromises the movement of my base, I can come right back here with that greater sense of stability. For more of a challenge still, bring the hands right behind the ears. We don't want any pressure on the head, but more going towards how to navigate that change of weight distribution as we raise from the hips. Two more. Okay, the hips lead on this next exercise as well. Again, feet slightly wider than the shoulder width. As I sink down, the hips draw back. As I raise up, the pelvis comes forward, belly follows, elbows sink to open up the chest and back. Drawing down, back straight, raising up, hips come forward, and sink. Continue.
Yeah.
Focusing on the roll of the pelvis. Back straight as we sink. And two more. Last one. Widening that stance a bit. Back is flat to the ground. As I turn, I look past my hand. Back the other way, turn and twist. Pushing the heels into the ground. And now the swoop. And back up to standing. Okay, feet a bit wider than shoulder width. The base move, this last one, is the same as our first one. Great big hip circles. The change is because of the greater separation of feet, it's a bit more space to navigate. All right? And as I draw back, I'm going to create that space to the side. Body's going to roll through. Okay, so rolling around and smooth. Hip comes forward, around, back, and through.
Hey, stop. Thank you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Scratching is right there.
Making sure the hip is still describing that complete circle. Two more. Last one. Other direction. Focusing on that full circle first. As I roll through, making sure not to lock out the knees. The knee can go a little straighter. You don't want to go all the way to lock out. You always want that little bit of buffer. Two more. Last one. Okay, shaking that out for a second. We're going to add one new exercise today from the Schweijiao knee and lower body workout. We're going to take our leg and getting in a very low circle behind the other leg. From here, the belly button, the umbilicus, is going to draw to the spine, and I'm going to sink down. If this is as far as I can sink with feeling stability in my legs and knees, that's great. If I can drop all the way down, maintaining that flat back, that's great too. As I raise up, and my back heel draws to the ground, my front leg lifts and comes behind. And again, I want to sink, but I want to feel stable the whole way. So this is as far as I can go. That's great. From here, I'll just lift that foot, bring it behind, and sink. Let's try to do 10 of these together, okay? So from that sink, raise, kicking to the outside, and behind, one. Again, as I drop down, I don't ever want my pelvis to stick back. I want to make sure I'm sinking straight down, raising straight up, kick to the outside and behind, two. Three. Four. Five. Six. Seven. Eight. Two more. Nine. Last one. 10. Okay, shake that out for a moment. Any questions so far? All right. So those movements come from the martial art Shuaijiao, which obviously is not Taiji, but it is the oldest continuously practiced martial art in China. They are chiefly concerned with partner work and combat. And so their warm-ups are just fantastic for building a strong, integrated body. And I love mixing it in wherever I can. From here, let's go on to our hip circles. Nice relaxed stance, starting with that right hip. External rotation. Hip comes in, around and back. Focus on the shape. From there, again, integrating our three basic postural elements, beginning with that foot grab. The foot grab is light, just enough so you can feel the muscles of the feet engage. Notice that changes the amplitude of your movement. From there, that umbilical draw to the spine, so that movement from the base can begin to travel up and innervate through the body. And finally, that gentle lifting of the head, neck, and occiput, that bump right at the base of the skull, that gives all that draw a place to go, so it doesn't get stuck in the neck and shoulders. So we're pulling from the ground, organizing it through our structures, and letting it release up and through the body. From here, changing legs. Now the left leg is focused on that circle. Again, first few revolutions, make sure that it is a circle. Drawing all the way around, back, and in. Once that's feeling consistent, then that foot grab, if you notice, if I do just a full circle with a foot grab, the movement's quite large. I add in that foot grab, it's still a circle, but notice how I'm now far more centered over my base. Without the belly draw, though, my hips don't know quite where they are. So I draw that belly button in, the spine draws back to a nice neutral, and all of a sudden I can feel this movement more easily through my hips and into my core. From there, raising of the head and neck to give it all a place to go. We're well on our way. From here, drawing the circle around and back, and then changing the other hip. Describing that figure 8. 1 to 2. Make sure each half is complete as it draws into the next. Just as with the single leg isolations, make sure the shape is there first before you add in any of those postural elements. So it's kind of figure 8, beginning with that gentle foot grab. Belly draw then. And last, the head neck raised. Relaxing back to our middle, find the center. Back to our first leg, this time internal rotation. I find that internal is a little more tricksy to make smooth than external, so again, really take your time, slow it down, try to feel that hip roll. Once you get a few in a row that feel good, then start adding the foot draw. Followed by the belly. And lastly, the raising of the head neck. Changing sides. Again, find that shape first. Adding in the foot grab. Belly draw. And lastly, that head neck lift. Now rolling into our figure 8. One circle, draws to the next. Side to side, back and forward we go. Try to find a width of stance that's comfortable with the movement. It's okay to experiment. Try a deeper stance, a more narrow stance. The place you're most comfortable will vary tremendously based upon your own structures. From there, the belly draw and the head neck raise. and relaxing back to that middle. Okay, shake it out for a moment. Okay, good. Quick drink of tea. We'll continue. Good, Phil. All right. There's. All right. So we're doing our slicing a little bit. For slicing, there's that raise of the two hands, and the little finger aspect leads we drop. Raising to the side, little finger side is in front of both hands as we stick. So palm up on the high hand, palm down on the low. The movement is roughly from the shoulder to the opposite hip, slicing diagonal. In the side body view, you can see how even though there's that slice starting pretty close to my center, the armpits are never collapsing in. There's always that little bit of buffer in the armpits, just as there's that little bit of buffer in the knees when we're doing our early Schweigert drills. Okay, play with this roll for just a second. And make sure there's a sphere in each armpit, a space that we are rolling around that has an elasticity to it. So if we press in, it recoils and pushes us away. To help achieve that, we want to make sure the chest is concave, so the clavicles, the two long bones up here, are knitting together just a little bit with the manubrium. That gives a slight rounded feeling to the chest and gives us a little more space to navigate. Good, Eric, making sure that the lift has weight, just as the descent has weight. Raising, descend, raising, arc. The circle in front of the chest is reserved all the way through. It just becomes a bit more oblong as we slice down. Very nice, April. Good, Caro and Laura. An excellent Pam and Craig. Okay, so from here, we have our slicing and we have our internal rotation of the hips. Now we're going to pair them. And to begin with the hand on the top of the pelvis on each side, find that figure eight one more time. Slow down just a little, feel the natural rise and fall of the hips as it rolls side to side. The hip rolls in, it sinks. The hip comes around back, it lifts as it comes forward, sinks as it draws in, lifts to sinks. From here, we're going to pair that hand movement, that slicing hand movement, with the movement in the base. The trick is we don't want the hands to rise with the hips. We want the hips to pull the hands. So there's a little bit of delay. Again, together would be here. With that delay, the hip begins to lift. The arms raise off that movement. The hip rolls in first, guiding the hands. The hands follow that slice. The hip begins to lift, lifting the arms. The hip draws in, guiding the hands down. And so even though the hands are the most visible part of this movement, they're just a reflection of what's already happening with the base. Like there's a string just kind of gently pulling the hands, fraction behind the movement. Starting off nice and slow so you can really identify that lift in the hips as it transfers to the upper. That turn and twist pulls the arms down. And this is how we begin to study Zhang Ti Li, or full body movement. Lift to turn slice. Lift to turn slice. Play this for a couple more seconds. Good, April. There's the same amount of life in the fingers all the way through. As we drop down, the hip roll immediately raises the arms to slice. Raises the arms, the hands are sort of drawing up, and then blade-like as they descend. Raising, blade-like. There's never a point where the hands go dead. They always have either that drop or that raised quality to them. Very nice, Laura. The timing's looking great. The angle's looking good. Very nice, Carol. Good. A little more stretch to the fingertips. Oh, a little more reach. Good. There you go. Very nice. Life to the fingertips all the way through, following that base. Excellent. Good, Pam. As you raise up, Pam. See this? There's a roundness. The shape as it draws up, but then cuts as it draws down. I lift that circle, slice with that circle. So maintaining that roundness through the chest, all the way through. As I speed up, it becomes a little more stretched and oblong. There's that same feeling of constant roundness. That way, I never go all the way to the extreme. There's always that little bit of pull as we turn the corner and draw the shape back around. So from here, we're going to add in some work with stepping. All right?
Yeah.
Let's find our hips and our hands. Find that rhythm once again. Slow down nice and easy for the first few. As I draw to my side, my hip continues to roll in. From that roll, I can take my other leg, step behind. As I pivot my body, my right foot turns in last. As it turns and finds the ground, my weight coils onto that leg, and I find my slice. Rolling side to side. As I reach, my front hip turns in. The back hip comes around. As I continue that slice, the back leg now turns, bearing my weight as I continue. One more going this direction, we'll change directions. So as the arms raise to lift, hip turns in, step, pulling that weight around, pulling weight on my right foot as it drills into the ground. And continue, raising, step, turn, slice. Let's try the other side for just a second. As the hands raise, my left hip now turns in, right hip steps behind. As I pivot, my left foot turns in last, and I drill onto that left leg. The slice can continue. Reaching to the right, left foot comes back, turn, the weight comes to that right foot as the slice drops. Reaching to the left hip turns in, right foot steps, continuing that coil around and through. So facing weight, side view of the camera, real quick. As I raise up, there's that first coil in, continuing that inward rotation. Second foot comes behind. I continue that internal coil as the hands come through again. Any questions about this so far? It's a little tricksy. The timing of the coil with the base, I found, was the hardest part for me. And again, if we go really slow for a second here, the hands raise to the right as they do, right hip turns in. Step behind. So the foot turns as I pivot, and as the foot drills, my weight draws into it. Continuing, I lift, hip It turns in. I continue that turn as I step behind. The foot pivots, drilling into that foot as I slice. I lift, pivot, step, pivot, slice. One last time here. Everyone do that, try for a second. I come around and make corrections. Good, Eric. A bit more focus on the lift, Eric. The slice is looking good. The space between my arms. Lifting that sphere, rolling that sphere. Lift to drop. Make sure the lift is there. There you go. And as I lift, look at my hand shape. Heavy hands, so there's weight as they sink. Heavy hands lift, weight as you sink. There you go. Good, like you're chopping wood, lifting a heavy object and giving it space to slice down. Very nice, Eric. That's coming great, April. The hip coordination is looking really good. Nice job. All right, Craig. So Craig, as I lift up, there's the lift and the turning of that hip, right? One, step behind. Two, the body leads the way, the arms follow as that slice descends the opposite leg. Good, good. Raising on the other side. I step behind, turning, and the hands continue to sink. Turning the hip as the hands raise. Step behind. Good, Pam. Very nice. So in the beginning, it looks, Pam, like the hands moving a whole lot, right? But really, it's just that rolling of the middle and the arms accelerating away from this. If the middle is moving like that, like you're doing, it takes a lot of emphasis away from the arms and puts the focus back where it belongs in your core, which is fantastic. It's looking great, Carol. Very smooth, good cadence. Laura, that's coming along awesome. Very nice. Very smooth. Good. Good balance. Very nice, pal. That's looking good. As you reach up, from here, as we draw, sink. Good. Draw. See how the hip rolls first? Hand follows. Good. And then I create that space and the hands fill that space. As I roll to the other side, the hip rolls first. The hands rise off the hip. Turning away, sink. Good. I get back to it easily. So I draw to the right, sink left. Roll, lift left. Pull to the right. Roll to slice. Roll to slice. Very nice. That's coming along really well. Good job. Okay, before we move on to the next phase of this, are there any questions? All right. So what we're going to do now is blend external rotation of the hips with internal rotation of the hips sequentially. Okay, so this is a phrase we've done before in class, but I'll show it again. In the context of the Li Taiji spring form, we have a turn to slice, turn to slice. Same mechanics we played with all along with the bigger movement. From here, for that internal rotation, there's an external rotation, external to lift, turning, internal to slice, internal to slice, external, external to lift. And so we're going to go nice and slow, and we're going to play with how internal can become external smoothly in your body. All right? So start with our figure eight slicing one last time. And we're just going to walk through this nice and slow. As I reach back with my right side, my right hip turns in. I'm going to step back with my left foot. As I pivot, the arms stop and hold. From here, I continue that internal rotation. Right foot, left side of the arms raise, step back, pivot to setting on the other side. Now, as we go into that holding the ball, there's going to be left leg external rotate, right leg externally rotates, left leg externally rotates one more time as we come underneath that ball and use that pivot to help us raise and extend. From here, I draw, and just as before, I step back, turn, and hold. Right leg internal, left leg internally rotates, step back with the right leg, turn, and hold. Right hip rolls, left hip rolls out, right hip rolls out, and lift. Shut it once more together, then I'll answer any questions you might have, and we'll begin to drill it, okay? So again, we have that base of slicing. The right side lifts, which means that right hip can turn in. Step behind with that left leg, and set. Right hip internally rotates, left hip internally rotates that lift. Step behind, set. Left hip rolls out, right hip rolls out. Left hip rolls out as I get ready and continue my slow reach to hold. As that right foot finds the ground, left hip rolls in, right hip rolls in, step to check, right hip rolls in, left hip rolls in, step to check, right leg rolls out, left leg rolls out, right leg rolls out, left rolls, and through. Any questions so far? If anyone's completely lost, let me know. I'd be happy to help break it down further. All right, let's give this a try twice more together, and I'll watch all of you give it a go. Sound good? Awesome. So here we are. Couple of rolls to get into that cadence once again. And now from here, lifting to the right as that right hip turns in. Step behind with the left, slice. Notice how my right foot's on the heel. As I continue to turn, that foot's going to turn in to allow for the inward rotation on the right side. The inward roll on the left raises that left arm as I step behind and check. From here, externally rotate, and one last time towards the left as I draw up and reach. Rolling, the right hip turns in as I step, turn to slice, roll, left hip turns in as I step to slice, externally rotate, 2, and as I come around for 3, now forward weighted, as I raise and press. One more of those. hand slice. Hands raised to the right, the hip turns in, I step to set. Roll 1, 2, step to set. Left leg external, right leg external, left leg external to reach. Roll, set, internally roll, to set, external rotate, draw to that right leg, and lift. And so a little trick can help out here quite a bit. As we draw back, you can take a second to play with external rotations to find that base in your hips, coming forward on that front leg finally as it turns for your raise. Just as you can do multiple turns before stepping back to slice, you can do the same thing, multiple rolls, before you find that base and lift out of it. Any questions so far?
That actually answered some questions I've had for this set in the past, so.
Sweet. Yeah, this is part of why I spend so much time on that hip rolling, because if you can get that down and make that smooth, so much just comes out of there, really easily at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, just comparatively. Any other questions? Okay, yes?
On the third part, where you're lifting the ball, how do your arms relate to what your hips are doing?
So, I'll always do both sides and break it down, right? So there's the 1, 2. As the hips roll, it's very similar to the lifting and drawing that we've done so much, all right? In that I want to feel that roll from the hips lifting into the upper body, so as I come around and through, I can lift off that base in a very similar way and press out from my core. What I'm not trying to do here, which I might help answer, is I'm not just trying to find my balance and push, right? I want to find that coordination of everything drawing from the ground. So as I lift up, I'm pulling through my middle, drawing forward, suspending myself from that middle point as I reach out evenly in both directions. And so the other side, as we turn, see, I'm rolling that sphere. I'm getting under that ball, April. As I roll through, I begin my lift right here in my quad and then draw through evenly, hands and foot, as I reach out to the other side. Does that answer a little bit?
Yes, that's very helpful.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions like that? Cool. Let's try this twice more together, okay? So again, from that slice, find that cadence, find the hip coil reflecting into the arms. And on the next lift right, the right hip turns in, step behind. The right hip continues to turn in as we set. From here, the right hip continues its arc. Left hip finds its arc as we step back to set. Now, just as we did in the initial rotation first, play with that external rotation for a second. If you want to do some work with lifting and drawing here for a moment, you're welcome to. Feel that lift rolling off the hip. And now as we go left, so next time, rolling underneath that, but the same feeling of lift through the body as we reach out and serve. Rolling back, lift, set. Rolling back, turn, set. Same thing, find that external rotation in the hips, find that lift for a moment, holding that ball, rolling to the right, getting underneath that ball, and following that lift through. One more time. A couple little slices. On the next one, raising right, step, pivot set, turn, raise, step, pivot set. Find that external rotation for a second. Find the spear, roll out right, roll out and under left, and lift. Drawing back, step to set. Roll, step to set. Find the external rotation of the hips. Find that rolling, lifting with the external rotation. Roll out, roll right, under, and lift. And relax for a moment. So remember, the constant coil here is just that infinity loop in the hips, right? There's no stop for power. One side generates the next. If I want to create that action potential for Fa Li, I have to break that constant coil and express power through it, which I'm doing with the set to the side in a small way. The roll to lift ball is a similar kind of thing, right? I can have that constant figure eight, but that's not going to in itself give me the force to raise an object, right? But if I can use that roll to get my hips underneath something, then I can use that natural raise of my body to extend through and turn this loop, that is the figure eight, into the power that I need to effortlessly raise something else. And so we're playing with what is the continuous movement, what is the recycled movement, and then out of that, where can we take that power and direct it in a more focused way? And this little section of form is a wonderful place to play with that principle with both internal and external rotation in the hips, which makes it, extra spicy and challenging, but it's a nice place to spend some time. Any questions before we move on? Awesome. Let's see all of you do just about 2 minutes of this on your own so I can spot check everyone, and then we'll go on to the next exercise, okay? Very nice, Laura. Take your time with the roll. Good, Laura. Awesome. One little thing. As you step back, make sure you take a second with that set, okay? In the combat application is you've drawn something in, you've captured and hyperextended the joint, and that's kind of a pause point, then rolling around, capturing the other arm and hyperextending it. So make sure there's a little bit of stall there. And that also gives you a chance to find your balance and more easily go into the next shape. It's looking quite nice. You're doing great. You're doing great. No, the hip rolling is weeks of work. The hip rolling and arm rolling together is another bit of work. Doing it with stepping is a brand new tier above it. So if you're playing with all this together and it's frustrating, don't worry. You have all the component pieces. The arms are looking great, the feet are looking great. Every so often I see your middle tilt back. And the thing there is you have such a good base, you want to make sure you don't lose any of that. You've worked hard for that base. And so as that abdominal engagement becomes more consistent, the power transfer become more even as well. Yeah, it's a really good, both the top and the bottom looks awesome. The middle's mostly there, but that's what will fall out occasionally with you. So keep playing with that, it's coming along well. That's good. That was nice, Kara. Good. Good, Craig. Take your time, Craig. Feel the weight of that sphere. As Jean would say, do Bagua, do put the Bagua, emphasis, which is the speed. For Taiji, play with that subtle weight distribution, right? And so as I roll around, Craig, watch me. I take time to feel the leg. I take time to get everything set over the leg I'm going to reach off of. And then as I pull the middle, I want to unfold as I reach up. Find that speed. Commit there. And so I'm going to take time with that roll. I feel my weight rolling over that base leg as it draws forward, lifting out of the ground to press. Yeah. You're going to feel all those little connective muscles give you a little bit of a hard time. There you go. That's great. That's great. Good, Pam. The hips are moving much better, and the space in the arms and the armpits is looking really nice too. As you continue to work that, Pam, make sure there's always that bit of acuity where the pectoralis minor draws into the shoulder. So this area right here continues the softening and the roundness of the manubrium to the clavicles. There's kind of one big arc that rolls through the chest and having more space to control that ball. Very good, very good. Just circles stacked on circles. All right, Eric. Very nice, Eric. One more. That's right, you speak Chinese now. I can yell at you in Chinese, that's fantastic. Very good, man. Very good, Eric. Good, April. The hips are moving with you. Your base is right where it should be. All right, that ball roll, that's the tricksy part, right? So, finding that hip circle. If I want to roll the ball this way, I begin in the roll away, finding that shape. As I roll under the direction I want to raise, I carry that shape over the leg I want to lift off of. So you're still following that external rotation. And then I use that little turn I have left to give my body stability as I reach to the side. And that coil gives me base. If I was to kind of lift the ball and push it over here, I might make it to see how there's just not as much rooting me through, and it's much easier to be knocked over. If I take that time to lift, and now see I got a little bit more rotation I can play with. As I extend up, I feed into that rotation, and that gives me the hold to the side to make the shape more complete. Does that make sense?
What you're saying is good. I just feel like I'm trying to figure out more basic things right now, and so I conceptually understand where you're going with it, but my body's not doing anything. I feel like I did this better the very first time I did it 3 months ago.
Here's the thing. It looked, in some ways, aesthetically better. The content was less. And as the content comes in, it's not just that it's one vector of raise and lift. Like anybody, with enough practice and balance can just lift to the side like that. That's no problem. But carrying a coil and keeping it dynamic as you carry that to the side, there's still enough energy to roll into something else. That takes a lot of work. And what you have now is a base that kind of understands it can move with those new vectors. And giving that same balance and structure, that's the going through. That's what takes the time. And so you're doing everything right. And that whole statement of, I get it, but I can't do it yet, that's been my entire life in Beijing. That's how it goes. Just as you practice, keep that idea in mind. It will slowly build over time. If you have questions on it, I'm more than happy to ask and help guide you from there.
I have a very simple question. Which direction is your foot facing in relation to where you're pointing your arms?
Great question. So my foot is going to turn a little, but at most it's going to be 45 degrees, and the arms are reaching off on that straight line. It's not always. Now there's less stability in the hips through there. That's not a coil. That's just a brace, right? I want to make sure that as I pull up, there's a constant external rotation. So as that rotation manifests in my structures, the foot's here, but as I continue to rotate that way, the body is going to come with that straight line. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Of course, yeah. Great question.
Joey, I just beg
Yes.
you to upload this video because this was just such a great lesson on this. I think I'm going to be able to follow it. Thank you.
Excellent. The recording's been tough on this one, but Kate says she has it. I trust her, so with all luck, it will be up tonight or tomorrow. There's always some minor technical difficulty with the system. We do our best. Okay, everyone's looking really solid on this. It's a lot to play with there. What we're going to do for the next 5 minutes, just because I want every class is a quick run through of the form to this point. Follow along to the best of your ability. If you get a little lost, don't worry. It's just nice building kind of familiarity with the shapes and movements, okay? So take a second, shake it off, get a quick drink if you need it, and we'll do form, then standing, and then we'll close. Okay. Feet, middle. Heels touching, toes touching. Those first few breaths, just let your body rock, find your balance, find where you are. Don't worry, don't add any stress to your structure, just see where you want to lay. From there, find a place your weight is distributed evenly over the 4 quadrants of each foot, so that you can kind of melt into the ground. From there, adding in our basic postural principles, beginning with the feet, gentle foot grab. Feel that engage the musculature of the lower legs, and try if you can to carry that feeling engagement very gently up into the thighs and as high in the thighs as you can. Now, if your belly is not engaged, you'll find that movement, that pull, diminishes rapidly once it gets to about mid-upper leg. To help carry it further, we draw that umbilicus gently towards the spine. Let's say I have a bit of a lordosis posture. My hips are back here, right? As I draw the belly button in, I get that nice S-curve neutral spine. And in doing so, because of that abdominal draw, I can begin to pull that feeling of foot engagement up into my middle dantian. And then from there, it can begin to reach a little higher into my chest and shoulders. To get that reach all the way through the body, I want to raise that back of the head. Maybe I'll take my little finger side with my hand, gently cupping my skull, and giving just a few ounces of a lift, not a lot of pressure, just enough my spine wants to rise a little bit higher. And one of my goals from here is to feel that draw from the feet, pull all the way up and through. Maintaining this, I'm going to let the weight pour up and over my left foot into my right foot, making my left side light. When I raise this leg, I'm not just going to raise from the knee, right? I have all this good structural work I've done. I want to raise my deeper structures. So I'm going to pull my left inguinal, my quad, all the way across to my chin, my shoulder. So this cross-body pull that feels like a very light sit-up. That uses that deeper musculature as I raise the leg up, step to the side, and the weight then fills. And once again here, take a moment, make sure your feet are in a position that's comfortable. We want those lateral aspects parallel with each other. We want there not to be any undue tension in the body. And then again, foot grab, the belly, the neck, slight bend in the knees. As I inhale, the legs straighten as the arms raise palm up. The knees are almost but not entirely locked out. From here, the clavicles knit together. That gives that roundness to the back. And from that roundness, everything begins to draw in as I exhale. Fingertips drawing to yin twelve, the point in the center between the eyes. Fingers drawing down, 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 and see the hips turn in a little, giving the knees that kind of concave look. As the hands round, it pulls my base to stable. As I raise up, I'm stacking my body bit by bit over that stable base. The hands draw back a little behind that center line. Rounding up and over as I exhale again, the hands reach. drawing the chest and the hands together. And press. From here, the weight rolls to the right as the hands round, that right foot comes up. Stepping out on that 45-degree, roll the front foot, drill the back foot to press. Right hand and right foot turn out. Roll that vertical sphere, a vertical circle. As I draw it in, I'm pulling that back claw up, stepping out, round to drill and press. Reach, roll, pull, feet touch. Step out, toes facing towards the camera. Roll, to drill and press. From here, the hands reach. They continue to reach so much that it pulls that left foot off the ground for just a moment. As the foot finds the ground, drawing the body across, pulling the left foot up to touch the right, stepping out, round the left hip, drill the right hip. Reach. Same on this side. Stepping out right, roll to press. One last of these. Reach, draw, step, round, drill and press. The right hand presses down, left hand presses up. My body draws under and lifts. And the last 2 7-star coils, roll, pulling that right foot up to touching, stepping out on a 45, round, press. The right hand takes the lead here, lifting to the side, stretching all the way to that left foot as it pulls the left foot around and up. Both palms coming together as I sink, press, reach, scoop, lift, reach. Now for our section from today. Roll 1, step slice. Roll 2, step slice. Find that external rotation in the hips. Coil and lift. Reset for a quick second. Step back. 2 more slices. 1, 2. Externally rotating the hips. Coil. Lift. And shake that out for a moment. Okay, so that's approximately the first section of the Springly Taiji form. My teacher is on my YouTube channel doing the entirety of that form, so if you want to see how it can be done if you are just an exceptionally awesome Kung Fu master, that's a great place to look. But again, this will be the first thing we're working on these classes, and it's my goal for the next few weeks to make this phrase more comfortable, answer a lot of questions about that, and then begin to slowly build into the subsequent. Sound good? Let's do a bit of standing and we'll call it. Okay, feet together. Feet grab, belly drop, neck raise as the weight lifts up and over and pours into the right foot. Left foot raises from the middle as we step. Make sure it's comfortable. It's okay to adjust your feet if you need to. There's no shame getting it wrong the first step out. It takes a bunch of practice. From here, as I sink down, I'll maintain that belly draw so that as I raise, I can feel that arm lift in my paraspinal muscles. I don't want my shoulders to pull my arms up. I want a suspension bridge. The body sinks, the back draws, the belly engages and you'll help with that draw, and the arms are held by the side body, the belly, and the back, and as little by the deltoids as possible. Again, the goal is constantly furthering that goal of integrating the whole body together. The elbows are the heaviest and lowest of the three joints of the arm. As I sink in, I want to feel all of my weight on my quads. If I don't, it's probably because my hips rotated back and the weight's going onto my knees. To adjust for that, straighten your stance a little, pull your hips in, and as you sink, try to feel the quads engaged to support your weight. Over time, your body will go back to its natural, which will be the hips out. So just from the position, rotate the hips forward so you feel the quads engage again. Hold for as long as possible. Every few breaths, spot check to make sure you're holding here and not from the knees. Good. Continue holding. Very nice, Eric. Soften the gaze, just like Eric. Very good, Pam and Craig. Make sure the belly has that constant feeling of pull, working on softening the chest as you hold. There you go. And as you reach out, so again, this is kind of nice, relaxed. Every so often, play with slightly different shapes in the circle that we're holding. As you stretch it out, feel how that elasticity affects different structures in the body. There's a lot of connection you can identify just from playing with holding post. Good, everybody, life in the fingertips. Very good, Caro. Your shoulders just a little bit further back, Caro. Bring the chest just slightly, there you go. Very nice, Caro. Good, April. The fingertips are showing good life. The belly is nice and engaged. Stance is looking good. The arms sink, body raises. Pulling the weight up and over, filling that right leg, drawing the psoas muscle. Support draws in and raises up. For more masculine yang energy, right hand over left, or feminine yin, left over right, either way is fine. 3 slow Dantian rolls. Changing direction. All right, shake it out for a moment. Just keep it sitting. So, real quick, anyone who wants to be on the YouTube version of this, go ahead and send me permission and I will include you. If I hear nothing, I'll automatically cut you out, as is per usual. I have added in a Thursday at 10 a.m. class. So there's now both Tuesday and Thursday at 10. So those who want to do that can. If you want a exceptional series of workouts, my teacher, Mr. Batata, does a capoeira class from 8:30 to 9:30 that day. So if you want to really, really sweat and then do some Kung Fu, we can do that. Yeah, are there any questions, requests, or comments before we close before Bagua?
Just do you need a permission every time or a
Oh, no. Once is plenty, and if you ever change your mind, just let me know, and I will absolutely respect that. So again, I want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with the media that's out there. I also want to make sure that everyone has the resources they need to succeed at this. So whatever works well for you, I'm happy to follow that lead. Okay. Awesome. great job, everybody. Really, really nice work.
Thank you so much.
Is this pace still working okay for everybody?